Photoshop Project 4 City Promotion Cards. This is Stage 5 working in 3D, and we're on the second section, creating a 3D sphere. We are working now in the Poppy Festival file, and we are going to create a new layer and call it Globe. Your 3D information should still be available from the last file. So select the 3D tab, and we are going to have our source for our new 3D object as the selected layer. We are going to create a mesh from a preset, and from the drop-down, select Sphere. At the bottom of this panel, click to Create. If you get an embedded profile mismatch warning, choose Convert Document Color to the working space and select OK. In the 3D panel, select the sphere material. In the Properties panel, open the menu next to the Diffuse option and choose Replace Texture. We are going to select the field JPEG and open it. If you get the embedded profile mismatch, use the embedded profile. This wraps the image around the sphere. Click the sphere on the canvas to select the mesh object. Then click one of the gray lines that represents the mesh edge. Be careful where you grab. Make sure you get the move on XZ plane to show up, or you'll end up rotating this. But now you can click on that and glide this over down so that it will cover the image of the poppy on the background. In the Properties panel, show the coordinates. Move the cursor near the vertical edge of the mesh cage. When the feedback shows rotate around the y-axis, rotate around y-axis. Click and drag right until the large cluster of popsies is visible. So we're going to rotate this a bit so we get that nice grouping there. Your rotation is probably somewhere around 30, they say 26 degrees, but you could probably find something a little bit different, whatever is going to work for you. Whoa, I just kept moving that. Rotate around the y-axis, so you can rotate either direction. That's moving. There we go. So depending on where you prefer and how yours wrapped, you can select any section that you want. Or you could actually type in minus 26 degrees and see where that takes you. Now move your cursor near the top horizontal edge of the mesh cage. When the cursor feedback shows rotate around the x-axis, click and drag down until you are happy with the placement. Now click the center control to scale uniformly and drag up to enlarge the sphere. In the Properties panel, show the coordinates and select on Move to Ground. This maps the image to create the appearance of sitting on the ground plane, which is our red line. In the 3D panel, select Current View and choose the Pan 3D Camera button in the options bar. Click and drag until the sphere is back in the same relative position that you had before you moved it. When you've got the current view selected in the 3D panel, you can drag the ground plane. You're basically changing the view of the object without changing the mesh. Now you're going to click the light widget at the top of the document window. Click the light handle in the on-screen preview and drag until the shadow on the bottom of the sphere is strongest at the bottom right side. You should see the shadow shifting. If you notice that the shadow on the ground plane is too far behind the sphere, this is because of step 7, when we move the object mesh away from the ground plane. In the Properties panel, show the Infinite Light options. Change the light intensity to 60% and the softness should be at 30. Now you can see the shadow and make more informed changes. And the softness option makes a blurrier edge. Select the environment in the 3D panel. In the Properties panel, change the ground plane shadow opacity to 85%. This darkens the shadow that's cast by the sphere on the ground plane, but it doesn't affect the shadow on the surface of the sphere. Now we can select the Render button at the bottom of the pane. This is going to take my computer approximately 45 minutes to render, so and yours is rendering. Take a walk, take a break, grab something to drink, get comfortable, and come back to it after a bit. And we are done rendering. We're now going to create some layer comps. In your Layers panel, select any layer except for that globe layer, and we're going to open the Window Layer Comps panel. We're going to create a new layer comp. Name it Final 3D. Make sure the visibility option is checked and select OK. When you close the dialog box, the new comp gets added to the panel. It's active because we haven't made any changes to layers since saving it. And the icons to the right indicate the attributes that are stored in the comp. If an icon is grayed out, it's not part of that comp. You can click on these icons to toggle each attribute on or off for a selected comp. In the Layers panel, hide the globe layer. Create another new layer comp and name it Final Flat. Again, only include the layer visibility attributes. We hid the globe layer in the last step, so that means that layer is not visible when we activate the Final Flat layer comp. We're going to export the comp to a file. So select File, Export, Layer Comps to Files. You're going to make sure that they're going into your Cards folder. Yes. The name should be Festival and the file type should be JPEG. Take the quality down to about a 6 or 7 and select Run. Checking in your folder, you should find that you have a JPEG for the 2 final Festival copies, and one is Final 3D and the other is Final Flat. Those are the 2 files you're going to turn in to me. You're going to need to open your Boulevard file if it's not already open, and you're going to go to File and save this out as a JPEG. This file is too large for you to create as a PDF or as a TIFF and have it a reasonable size to send. So this one is going to be saved as a JPEG. save it as a high quality, which is still going to be less than 1 meg, and that's the file you're going to be sending to me.